The HOA's fake officers kicked in my gate, slammed me onto the hood, and locked cuffs around my wrists like they were dragging off some clueless rancher. I didn't resist. I leaned toward their leader and said low, calm, deliberate, "You didn't just cuff a landowner. You just kidnapped the state attorney." His face went white. I whispered one more thing. "Pray the sheriff gets here before I start correcting your mistakes." That half-second hesitation in their eyes was all it took for the truth to begin sinking in. But let me start from the beginning. It didn't usually happen like this. Landowners don't get snatched off their own property by a homeowners association. Not in Texas. Not anywhere civilized. But Sage Creek HOA wasn't run by civilized people. It was run by bullies in suits and vests, hiding behind clipboards and community rules, as if God himself signed them. The night they came, the moon hung high over cedar trees, silver light slicing through darkness. My dog's low, uneasy bark warned me something had crossed a line it shouldn't. Gravel crunched under heavy footsteps, shadows moving closer. Coffee still warm in hand. I stepped onto the porch and saw them approaching, black tactical vests, utility belts, patches reading community enforcement. Comedy, they called it, but I felt no humor. Their leader barked, "Mark Hale, you are under community arrest for violating HOA compliance orders and creating a hostile environment." "Community arrest," he said with straight face. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't set down my coffee. He shoved me toward my truck, pressing my face against the hood. Cheap mints, cheaper authority on his breath. Another slapped cuffs on my wrists, cold steel biting tight. But I remained calm. 30 years in law enforcement taught me it takes more than weekend warriors to rattle me. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know their mistake. The night was quiet otherwise, moonlight reflecting off scattered dust and gravel. I felt their eyes on me, measuring, waiting, unsure. The tactical vests weren't real authority. They were props, theatrics, smoke without fire. But the cuffs, the push, the aggression, real enough. I let them think control had shifted, while inside, I mapped every move, every escape, every bluff they were playing. Their leader, voice cracking, barked orders I could barely hear over my own calm. I leaned closer, whispering what they couldn't process. My identity, the pause, the hesitation, a crack in their overconfidence. My dog circled, alert, another warning that even nature recognized imbalance. I thought of my family, of years defending laws they now thought they could bypass with theatrics. The gravel crunched again. I imagined every neighbor, every corner of my property, every boundary remembered. They had underestimated the stakes. The moonlight glinted on cuffs, metal catching, and I let my presence speak louder than words. My voice, calm, deliberate, carried the weight of consequence. "You made a mistake," I said. The leader's face paled further. He didn't know if I was bluffing, but instinct told him I wasn't. The other men shifted nervously, fingers brushing equipment they didn't know how to use. I remained still, letting them feel the weight of my patience, of my authority. Minutes stretched, but every second added to their unease. I let silence dominate, only punctuated by my slow breathing. The night held them frozen in doubt. I thought of legal procedures, of rights, of past cases and moments where power and knowledge outweighed intimidation. They had walked into a storm they didn't recognize. I flexed my wrists, letting cuffs settle but remaining composed, each movement intentional. I studied them, one by one, recording hesitation, uncertainty, the human element in their act. Every glance told a story of fear unacknowledged, authority borrowed, bluffing poorly executed. The moonlight shifted, as if marking time for consequences to unfold. I allowed subtle movements, testing reactions, letting each man recognize they were outmatched. My voice low, calm, yet heavy with meaning, warned them without raising pitch or panic. I thought of history, of property, of the weight of precedent and law behind me. They were small in comparison. Gravel under boots, wind in cedar trees, dog alert and growling softly. All became part of the atmosphere, reinforcing tension. I reminded myself of patience, letting it act as a weapon more potent than any physical resistance. They breathed unevenly, glanced at each other, recognizing the mismatch. Rollins, the supposed leader, fidgeted with his vest, eyes darting, attempting control, failing. I let moments stretch to emphasize authority and patience, letting them feel uncertainty grow. Shadows dance in moonlight over splintered wood. Over the hood I leaned on, over cuffs that could not intimidate the experience and knowledge they had underestimated. I shifted stance slightly, deliberate, measured, signaling presence without aggression, asserting control psychologically. They reacted to motion, posture, intent, not to words. Silence punctuated by the faint bark of my dog, a natural sentinel reminding them the environment favored me. I felt the air thicken with tension, authority rooted in knowledge overpowering theatrics. Their gestures became hesitant, commands whispered, uncoordinated. I allowed my calm to dominate the room, my mental mapping anticipating their blunders. The cuffs pinched, but I ignored discomfort. I whispered a reminder of who I was. Hesitation grew, fear barely masked under tactical vest confidence. I moved slightly, every inch deliberate, reclaiming invisible space, psychological dominance asserting itself over the illusion of authority. The moonlight reflected in her eyes, revealing cracks in composure, shadows of doubt. Every heartbeat measured, counted, reinforcing the slow dismantling of their bluff. Gravel, dust, cedar, silent witnesses. I exhaled slowly, letting weight of presence and knowledge settle over them. Hands slightly flexed near cuffs, ready for attempted words, voice quivering, authority thin, ineffective. I remained still, calm, letting mental dominance build. Air seemed to tighten, dust particles highlighted by moonlight, every detail reinforcing stakes. I considered every exit, every corner, every possible mistake they might make. Anticipation mounted, psychological pressure increasing. My whisper again, barely audible, a reminder of identity and consequence. Pause. Hesitation. Recognition. Gravel shifted under boots. One man stepped back. Rollins swallowed, jaw tight. Another exhaled unevenly, realizing weight of misstep. I let the moment stretch. Patience like a blade. Dog barked low. Warning repeated. Shadow stretched, moonlight cut sharp. I flexed wrists, cuffs still firm, stance deliberate. Every inch I moved was calculated, presence asserting itself. Fear grew in their eyes. The moonlight, the night, the property itself seemed aligned, supporting authority, memory, and legacy. Minutes stretched to eternity. The HOA men, theatrical yet unprepared, faltered, realizing trespass underestimated. My calm, measured breathing dominated room, psychological weight pressing down. Rollins' hands shook, other men stiffened. Air seemed thick with consequences. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment settle. I stepped closer, deliberate, unyielding. Leave, I said softly, low, deliberate. Every second a warning, every gesture a message. They shuffled, hesitation.